Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bold Analysis. What is the truth about a report that Fred Okengo Matiang'i flew the country to settle for a job in United Nations based in New York, United States of America? I have been receiving a lot of questions in my DM. Just Kenyans really wanted to know the truth about the state of the affairs. While this has not been seen, but we can make some few observations lately and maybe reach out to a conclusion on what exactly is happening about CS Matiang'i. There is one thing that I need to mention, that we need to trace Fred Matiang'i's journey up to the helm of President Uhuru Kenyatta's reign. Matiang'i was appointed the Minister of ICT in 2013, and he was in charge of ICT, and yes, I need to get it right, Information Communications Technology, between 2013 to 2015. And at the height of at the height of exam cheating, Jacob Kaimenyi, who was the Minister of Education from the University of Nairobi, the former University of Nairobi VC, was sacked, and Fred Matiang'i was appointed in 2015 as the Minister of Education. Then in July 2017, in the run-up to the 2017 general election, Fred, Minister Interior Security Minister Joseph Nkaiseri passed on, and Matiang'i then held two dockets, that of Education and that of Interior, where he was holding the position of the late Joseph Nkaiseri. In 2018, when President Uhuru Kenyatta named his cabinet, he appointed Fred Matiang'i full of the position in charge of the Interior Security and Coordination of National Government. So he worked in that regime until 2019, when the fallout emerged between William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta. President Uhuru Kenyatta elevated Matiang'i to be in charge of, I think, coordination of cabinet performance and activities. And that is now the situation where they normally say that the role that William Ruto was supposed to play was being done by Fred Matiang'i. But in the light of that report, I will want us to make something here very clear. The reports of Fred Matiang'i may be going to work for a UN or to work in US are not wild. Prior to going to the public service, he served as the East Africa Regional Representative for the Center for International Development, Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy, the State University of New York, before being nominated as Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology. And remember, he also formerly taught at Egerton University. So the truth of the matter is this, that what has been treated as Matiang'i going to work for the United Nations based in New York, just trying to fly out of the country, I think is misplaced and is wild, because it is not new. That is not the first time that maybe if he's working there, that is not the first time he's going to work for an international body or at a global stage. Because before even coming to the public service, he was actually working at a global stage. And truth be told here, you can take anything away from Fred Matiang'i, but you cannot take his competency and diligence in work, and especially in service delivery. I saw that I really saw him receiving accolades from Nelson Harvey, who is saying that Matiangi, CS Matiangi, is actually a very diligent and competent policy man, but just that he was in charge of a docket where police that is in charge of security, people tend to think that he was behaving like a policeman. But that is not the truth. In terms of the competence, and his CV speaks for itself. Now, in his letter, exit letter, at the top of the ministry, there's things that CS Matiang'i mentioned. And he scolded at Deputy President and the Kenya Kwanza team, saying that despite them being attacked during the campaign trail, that they were working to subvert the will of the people, or rather that they were interfering with the election. Supreme Court vindicated them. And it showed that the police, or that sector he worked on, worked with professionalism of the security forces during elections. And it was so specific, and I think I got that clip somewhere here, that there were all sorts of complaints that they were planning to work with the chiefs to buy votes, to shut the internet, and there were all sorts of stories about CS Matiang'i. But one thing I can normally say is, I think if you look at the conduct of the police in this election, it was very different, and the vigilance was right. Even the day that results were being announced, the National Security Council had already known what was going on and how the results were going to come out, but they did not send police in any hotspot. And in fact, in this election, there was no hotspot. Even the day the Supreme Court was releasing the verdict, there was no hotspot, and there was no that eye-catching police deployment in areas that were perceived not to be receptive of the outcome. So this is something that he spoke about. And from that letter, if you couple that, the latest observations that CS Matiang'i has been missing in the assumption of office committee, transition committee, then it is blatant in black and white that CS Matiang'i is not part and will not be part of William Ruto's regime, at least not now. You can see members of Uhuru's cabinet like Najib Balala anajaribu kujipendekeza. No, all of a sudden he has become an activist telling the country the way Cherera and the other 4 commissioners needs to be punished. And interesting development in Twitter. I've seen Arun, I think it's Arun Cheriot and Oscar Sudi have come out guns blazing, telling him that he should just retire peacefully after working with President Uhuru Kenyatta for the last 10 years and have been a minister for the last 15 years of his public tenure. So when you see Najib Balala is saying that I have worked with President Uhuru Kenyatta, I'm willing to work with Ruto. Magoha is saying that if he can be half considered qualified, he can be accepted back in the cabinet, or rather he can be hired to work still in the cabinet. This is still there. But the tone of letter by CS Matiang'i just speaks to itself that he's not going to be part of William Ruto's regime. This is coming after I also did another analysis here that NS General was also planning to retire with President Uhuru Kenyatta. But I want us to look at it in a manner that why do you think the likes of Matiang'i cannot and may not be part of William Ruto's team? Even with all the track records and the competencies that have been said against him. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. Thank you very much for your support. We've reached, of course, subscribers. We've reached 34,600. We continue to thank you people for your support, and thank you, asanteni sana. We do this every day because of you. I need to mention that from next week, I'm going to start a county podcast called County Meter, so that we take we really make the Kenyans to understand what's happening in our counties. That is the another level of development. Rather, that's the other level of governance that I think is being overlooked. But as the bold, as we review channel, we're also heading to the counties to just make sure that we do some vigilance on the devolved units. Now, Matiangi will not welcome Ruto's administration to avoid simply blame games. And I can tell you that as a civil servant, one of your roles is to defend the government in wrong and right. And while if he is to be given any position there, maybe if he is to be retained in that position, then most likely when things go wrong, they will still come out. And when he defends government, actually the sword will turn against him as someone who has just taken the problems of Uhuru 2 to Ruto 1. That to me is one of the reasons. And they will just want a clean bill. Remember, at the campaign, during the campaign trail, Kenya Kwanza blamed President Uhuru Kenyatta and his regime on some things that did not go right. And one of the people that was closest to President Uhuru Kenyatta and the delivery unit of President Uhuru Kenyatta is CS Matiangi. So by you having Matiangi in that government, number one, you see the face of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And maybe some wild thought is maybe some other people can also see it as they betrayed Raila Odinga and supported William Ruto because they knew they would benefit. That these are things that will still play out for the gallery. And of course, to Raila Odinga supporters, this is already a conversation that is there. That did someone sabotage Raila Odinga's presidential bid? So this is there. But I want to be very objective here and say, any appointment to CS Matiang'i above where he was will be a demotion. Let's imagine maybe he's taken some other small ministry or some other parastatal, and he can be told if you have to remain, you have to stick, maybe you go and become head of a parastatal somewhere. That will be a demotion. This is a man who was close to the reins of power. I see him just sitting back, maybe taking that global role at that global stage. When he comes back, he will come back and go to the devolved units and maybe seek to become a governor, which is highly possible. For example, in Nyamira, where Nyaribo is just finishing up, one thing you can say is CS Matiang'i is one of the best performing CSS in this country, even both in Uhuru 1 and Uhuru 2. And if you would go to seek a governor there, the people in Nyamura will have a very perfect choice to elect one of the best. Now, Miguna and Sudi factors in Ruto reign do not sit comfortable with him. I see Miguna now, I think he's saying that he wants to come to Kenya and wants to go to US and just find out where Matiang'i is. And there is just a lot of mockery, and the people that have bitter bile. The President-elect William Ruto can be accommodative because of maybe factors. There are things that he knows that this other juniors doesn't know. But the likes of Oscar Sudi and Miguna would use that opportunity to mock, ridicule, and humiliate, and even revenge against CS Matiang'i. Remember, Miguna is already saying that he's coming back with a lot of court cases and court orders that were supposed to be issued and were not implemented or they were not obeyed. So there are just a lot of loose hands. And I really advise and I support if CS Matiang'i decides that, look here, I'm not going to be part of this. Because imagine they come to government and there is a slow start. There is a difference between failing to deliver and a slow start. The slow start can be understood as a poor delivery because Kenyans' expectations are high. So it's right that they need just to leave William Ruto, get a clean team, a new team, and run his agenda. If anything, maybe he will get a dream team that understands the hustlers' agenda. But for CS Matiang'i, it is true and it is possible that CS Matiang'i could be out of the country on this. But we are yet to find out during the swearing-in ceremony.